Welcome to the Love and Lust Lounge audiobooks. Incomplete Without You. This book right by S.A. Hadi. Introduction. Some connections are written into our souls long before we ever meet. They echo in our thoughts, surface in our dreams, and stir something deep within us that we can't always name. Incomplete Without You is a tribute to those bonds, the ones that make us feel whole, seen, and understood. This book is about love in its rawest form. Not just the fairy tale moments, but the quiet spaces in between. It's about the ache of absence, the beauty of presence, and the way another soul can mirror parts of ourselves we never knew were missing. Whether romantic, spiritual, or eternal, these pages hold the pieces of a love that transcends time, distance, and even words. Because sometimes, it's not just about finding someone, it's about remembering that a part of you was always reaching for them. Incomplete Without You. In the golden hush of late autumn, where leaves whispered love letters to the wind, Arian met Anya again, not as strangers, but as unfinished chapters of the same story. They had once been everything to each other. First glances in crowded rooms, shy smiles under moonlit skies, stolen moments that felt like eternity. But time, cruel and impatient, had pulled them apart. Life took them to different cities, different dreams, and different versions of themselves. Yet even after years, their souls still remembered. A song, a scent, a rainy day, and there they were, in each other's memories, just as alive as before. Fate brought them back one dusky evening in an old bookstore, their hands brushing over the same vintage poetry book. Silence lingered, the kind that knows too much. And then she smiled, the same way she used to when he'd talk about constellations and coffee. They sat for hours, as though making up for the time they lost. Talking about everything and nothing. Their eyes spoke what their lips never could, that the world had moved on, but their hearts had not. You always said I complete your chaos, Anya whispered. And you complete my quiet, Arian replied. Love wasn't loud between them. It was in the pauses, the glances, the way their hands fit like verses in a poem. They weren't perfect, just two imperfect people who understood that sometimes, love means coming back. It means choosing each other, even after all the reasons not to. They weren't just rekindling a romance. They were rebuilding a home not made of bricks, but of shared silences, deep trust, and a love that never truly left. Because some hearts aren't meant to beat alone. They're simply incomplete without you. Incomplete Without You Part 2. The days that followed were quiet miracles. Arian and Anya began meeting again, not planned, not forced, just two people finding reasons to exist near each other. A walk through the old part of town, coffee in mismatched mugs, and long drives where words were few but feelings loud. Every moment felt like a memory being rewritten with gentler ink. But healing love is never without scars. One evening, under a sky painted in dusk and dreams, Anya looked away and said, "Do you ever wonder why we broke in the first place?" Arian sighed, his voice tender. Maybe we needed to lose each other to know how much we mattered. There was silence. And then she said it, almost afraid, "What if we break again?" He looked at her, eyes soft with honesty. "Then we'll break, and I'll find you again. Because even broken, I'm still yours. I've always been." That night, they danced under fairy lights in Arian's backyard, barefoot, to an old vinyl song that once played in his car when they were 21 and reckless. No promises. Just presence. Just this moment. The world around them hadn't changed, still noisy, still demanding, but they had. They now understood that real love isn't made of grand gestures. It's in staying when it's easier to run, in listening when silence is heavy, in showing up again and again until healing feels like home. They weren't perfect, They had baggage, cracks, history. But they had each other. And sometimes, that's enough. Because some souls are written in the same script, destined to find their way back not once, but always. Because even in a crowd, even in joy or pain, even across years and lifetimes, they were always incomplete without each other. Incomplete Without You Part 3, The Letter. Seasons changed again. The crisp warmth of autumn faded into the hush of winter. Life, as it often does, began to call them in different directions. Enya received a scholarship to Paris, the dream she had once buried for love. And Arian was offered a position in his father's legacy architecture firm, something he had been building toward for years. 2 dreams, 2 hearts, 1 crossroad. They sat by the lake one last time before her flight, the same place where they'd first kissed years ago. There were no fights, no ultimatums. Just heavy silence between heartbeats. "I'm afraid," she whispered. "Of what?" he asked. "That we'll drift again. That distance will turn us into strangers." Arian took her hand, fingers trembling, and said, "We might drift, but some tides always return to shore. Some love stories aren't linear. They're patient." She cried quietly, and he held her like he was holding time itself. Before she left, she gave him a letter. "Don't open this until you really need to," she said with a smile that almost broke. Months passed. They texted, called, shared songs. But slowly, life got louder. The calls less frequent. Reality crept in like frost on a window pane. One rainy night, alone in his apartment, Arian found the letter again, the one he never opened. With shaking hands, he unfolded it. "My dearest Arian, if you are reading this, maybe we've paused again. Maybe you're wondering if we'll ever find our way back. But listen, love like ours doesn't vanish. It waits. It grows quietly in the spaces between words and years. Even if life takes us far, even if we fall in love with other cities or different mornings, I want you to know, a part of me is always yours. The part that believes in you. That still sees constellations when you talk. Because some people, they aren't just chapters. They're the whole book. And for me, you'll always be that. Incomplete without you. Enya." Arian closed the letter with tears in his eyes, not from sorrow, but from knowing that what they had wasn't over. It was just paused. Because the deepest kind of love doesn't always need a perfect ending. Sometimes, it just needs to be remembered. Lived in fragments. Felt in echoes. And maybe one day, in a quiet street in Paris, or a bookstore in Delhi, they'll reach for the same book again. And pick up right where they left off. Because real love? It's never lost. Just waiting. Always incomplete, without you. The end.